They laughed at her mettle before anyone even knew her name. It wasn't cruel laughter at first, more the careless, bored amusement of young recruits who hadn't yet learned what silence could cost them. The room buzzed with nervous energy, boots scuffing concrete, voices low and restless. Then she stepped inside, and everything began to unravel. The auditorium at Coronado was packed with fresh recruits, backs straight, eyes forward, at least in theory. Weeks into training, exhaustion had already stripped away some discipline, leaving sarcasm and bravado in its place. The instructors hadn't arrived yet, and the recruits whispered, joked, and compared scars like trophies. That's when they noticed her. She walked in alone, not escorted, not announced. Mid-30s, maybe younger, hard to tell. Her posture was calm but unyielding, like a line drawn in stone. She wore a simple service uniform, unadorned except for a single ribbon bar and one metal pin neatly over her heart. It was old, slightly dulled, not flashy, not the kind of thing recruits plastered on posters. Someone snorted. Another recruit leaned over and muttered, "That's it." A few laughed quietly. One of them, a tall kid with a loud voice and too much confidence, whispered just loudly enough, "Guess they're giving medals for showing up now." The woman heard it. She didn't flinch. She took a seat in the front row, hands resting on her knees, eyes forward. Her face gave nothing away, not anger, not embarrassment. Just patience. The laughter spread, subtle but infectious. The recruits weren't trying to be cruel. They were young. They didn't know what that medal meant. They didn't know what it weighed. A door opened at the side of the auditorium, and the room snapped to attention. Conversations died mid-word, boots aligned, spines straightened. The SEAL commander stepped in. Commander Hayes was a legend long before most of them had enlisted. Tall, broad-shouldered, hair shot with gray, eyes that seemed to measure a man in seconds and find him wanting. He walked with the quiet authority of someone who had survived things others didn't talk about. The recruits had heard the stories, some exaggerated, some not, but none doubted his presence. He moved toward the podium, scanning the room as he walked. His gaze passed over the rows of recruits, sharp and assessing. Then it stopped. His eyes locked onto the woman in the front row. He froze, not figuratively, not for a moment of hesitation. He stopped mid-stride, like the world had pressed pause. A ripple of confusion passed through the room. The recruits exchanged glances, unsure if this was some kind of test. Commander Hayes opened his mouth to speak. Then he closed it. For a long, breathless second, no one moved. The room felt suddenly smaller, heavier. The commander took a slow step forward, then another, his eyes never leaving her face. His jaw tightened. His hand, almost without his noticing, came up in a crisp salute. The recruits stared in disbelief. The woman stood. She returned the salute, her movements precise, restrained. Not ceremonial, instinctive. Commander Hayes lowered his hand slowly. When he finally spoke, his voice was different than expected. Softer, tighter. "Ma'am," he said, and the title landed like a thunderclap. "I didn't know you were back." A pin could have dropped and shattered the silence. The woman nodded once. "I wasn't sure I would be," she replied. Her voice was calm, steady, carrying easily through the room. "But here I am." The commander turned to face the recruits, his expression unreadable. "Recruits," he said, "you are in the presence of someone you should be standing for." They scrambled to their feet, chairs clattering, hearts pounding. "This," Commander Hayes continued, gesturing toward her, "is Lieutenant Mara Klein." The name meant nothing to them. Yet, "She is the reason 12 of my men came home alive from the Al-Hajar Mountains 7 years ago," he said. "She is the reason I'm standing here today." The laughter drained from the room, replaced by something colder, realization. Mara didn't look at the recruits. Her eyes were fixed somewhere far away, as if the walls of the auditorium had dissolved into another place, another time. 7 years earlier, the mountains had been unforgiving. Snow slicing sideways through the air, visibility near zero. The SEAL team had been deep in hostile territory, intel compromised, extraction delayed. An ambush came fast and brutal, high ground, coordinated fire, no clean exit. Mara had been attached to the mission as a liaison, intelligence, communications, support. She wasn't supposed to be in the kill zone. She wasn't supposed to lead. When the first man went down, everything changed. Their comms were jammed, air support grounded. The mountains turned sound into echoes and lies. Panic tried to claw its way in, but Mara had forced it back. She had taken control not by shouting, but by thinking, by seeing angles others missed, by moving when others hesitated. She'd crawled through ice and rock under fire to reach a broken relay unit. She'd rerouted power with numb fingers, teeth chattering, blood freezing on her sleeve where shrapnel had torn through. When the enemy advanced, she picked up a rifle, not with confidence, but with necessity. She didn't fire wildly, she fired when it mattered. One shot had stopped a flank. Another had bought seconds. Seconds became minutes. Minutes became survival. When the evacuation finally came, 12 men were alive who shouldn't have been. And one woman was left bleeding in the snow, refusing extraction until every last one of them was aboard. The medal on her chest wasn't for bravery in the abstract. It was for decisions made when there was no good choice. For carrying weight no one saw. For living with faces that never leave you. Back in the auditorium, Commander Hayes let the silence stretch. Then he spoke again. Some of you laughed, he said quietly. No one breathed. You laughed at a medal you didn't recognize, he continued. At a woman you didn't know. You laughed because you haven't earned the right yet to understand. His eyes hardened. You think respect comes with rank, with noise, with stories you tell about yourself. He shook his head. Respect comes from what you do when no one is watching. When no one is clapping. When there is no guarantee you're coming home. He turned to Mara. They don't know what it costs, he said. She finally looked at the recruits. Her gaze was steady, not angry. Almost kind. They don't have to, she replied. Not yet. She stepped forward, standing before them now, the single medal catching the light. I didn't come here for recognition, she said. I came because someone once gave me a chance when I didn't look like what they expected. She paused, letting the word settle. You're going to be tested here, she continued. Not just physically. You'll be tired, you'll be scared, and at some point, you'll be tempted to decide who matters and who doesn't based on what you can see. Her eyes swept the room. That's when you fail. One of the recruits, the loud one from earlier, felt his throat tighten. Shame burned hot in his chest. He stared at the floor, wishing he could rewind time. Mara seemed to notice him anyway. The strongest teams, she said, are built on humility. On listening. On understanding that the quietest person in the room might be carrying the heaviest load. She took a step back. Remember that. Commander Hayes nodded once, sharply. Training resumes in 5, he barked. And you will remember this moment for the rest of your careers. Mara turned to leave, her footsteps soft against the floor. No applause followed her. None was needed. As the door closed behind her, the recruits remained standing, frozen not by command, but by something deeper. They had laughed at a medal. They had learned, too late, that some stories don't announce themselves. And that true strength doesn't demand attention. It waits, and when it finally speaks, the room goes silent.